Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to Brass Monkey X. So, we're doing a book review today. It's on this whole series of books I've got here. This is the SHTF series by L.L.Akers, or Akers. I don't know how she pronounces that. Um, I had these books saved in my Amazon for quite some time, and I was really excited to read these. I love post apocalyptic survival drama books. Like, it's my favorite genre of book. I love books like this. I was really excited to get to these. I bought all four at the same time. I did a ton of reading this winter, and I even got my wife to read these, and she's not a big fan of this genre, but she had a lot to say about these books. I'm not going to get into what she had to say. This is basically just I'm going to give you my points of view on these books. Um, Now I have quite an extensive like prepper library, and I like to include books like this and series like this in my library because not only are they just good stories, something to do if God forbid ever the power goes out, you have something to read, but there's typically really good information in books like this where they give you survival tips and tricks hidden inside of the books. So that's why I like to keep these in my prepper library. But so what I did was this isn't going to be like a formal review. Basically, what I'm going to do is as I read these, I wrote down notes. Okay, every time I felt like I needed to stop and make a note of something, that's kind of what I did. And I wrote notes down for each book, and I'm just going to read you guys the notes that I took for each book in this series. So why don't we go ahead and get started here? So there's four books in the series, as you can see here. We'll go ahead and we'll start with book number one. It's called Fight Like a Man. Now, book number one is it's one of those books that has like no main protagonist, and it centers around a family of people during a catastrophic SHTF event. Every chapter kind of like jumps to a new person or a group of people, and like the story, it doesn't center around a particular person, as it just jumps back and forth to each person or group. And I do enjoy that style of writing. That is, it does keep you interested. It's not just centered on one person the whole time, and it doesn't get stagnant. It's constantly jumping back and forth. I really like that. Um, so the characters in this book, you have Grayson. He's like the patriarch and the prepper of the family. Who he's home alone with his dog Ozzy when this SHTF event happens. Then there's Gracie, who is Grayson's daughter. She is away at college at the time when everything goes down. Next, you have Olivia, Gabby, and Emma. So Olivia is Grayson's wife. Gabby is her twin sister. She's married to Jake. And Emma, the little sister, she's married to Dusty, with whom they have a 13-year-old son named Ricky. Now, Jake, Gabby's husband, is at their home when this all goes down. Dusty, Emma's husband, he also happens to be Grayson's brother. Yeah, him and their son Ricky, their whereabouts are unknown. But we do know that Dusty is a police officer. We do have that much information. Then we have Puck, who in my opinion is the most interesting character of the bunch. He's Grayson's neighbor that he never knew he had. And he's, how do I put this without being politically incorrect? He's a little slow. He's a young adult with like the mind of a child. And let's see, last but not least, we have Ozzy, the family dog. I love dogs, but something terrible always happens to dogs in these books. And I'm not ashamed to admit that I literally cry every time. So let's hope that nothing happens to this good boy. So, obviously, the premise of this entire first book here is that the family is separated when the shit hits the fan, and they're all trying to get back to Grayson's homestead. This was the plan that they all had before the SHTF event. And I dig the plot. And like I said, post-apocalyptic survival drama is one of my favorite genres of book. And the story is interesting, and it's well written, but it's predictable at times, and it moves fast. It's just like bam, SHTF, and a day later, there's like roving gangs playing scavenger hunts with like human beings as trophies. Like it moves real fast. I wish the author would just take some more time to elaborate a little bit. Like she needs to just give a little more detail. It feels too rushed. Like we don't even get very good descriptions of the characters themselves. We don't get a clear vision of what like the homestead looks like. I don't even know what kind of dog Ozzy is. Like maybe I missed it, but I really don't remember reading what kind of breed Ozzy is. So you really have to fill in the blanks with your imagination, and that's fine. But I would really prefer a more vivid description of things from this author. Like for instance, one of the more minor characters in book one, Jake's neighbor named Tucker, he gets described as, and this is a quote straight from the book, fit and has 2 black belts in some sort of kung fu. Like, come on, man. Like, she couldn't even get on the Google and look up 2 martial arts to give this guy. Like, it's just kind of lazy writing. It's like, I give my Dungeons and Dragons characters more of a backstory than she does in this book here. Like, Grayson's description in book 1 is he's 40 years old and 6 feet tall. And that's basically all you get. Like, you get nothing else. You don't know what Grayson looks like. Now, the main characters in this book, the characters are okay, but they're a bit blah. Like Puck, who's kind of a secondary character, he's the most interesting character to me. Followed up by like Gracie, the daughter, and then Jake. Like even the dog Ozzy's relationship with Puck is more nuanced, and it's more interesting than some of the main characters are. Like Grayson is kind of just white bread. His wife Olivia is just annoying and utterly useless. Her twin sister Gabby is supposed to be like a badass, but she comes off as just a pushy bitch. And Emma is completely forgettable. Dusty and Ricky, they don't even make an appearance. Like they're just mentioned a couple of times, and like you don't even hear what happens to them. You keep waiting for the book to jump to like a chapter on them, and it just never happens. Yet overall, I would go out on a limb here and say that book 1 is an okay read, in spite of all of my little nitpicking here. So book 1, it's not bad. If you want to give it a shot, go ahead, try it out. Like I said, book 1, it was okay. I was pretty happy with book 1. Now we move on to book number 2 here. Book number 2, it's called Shoot Like a Girl. So, all right, my notes here on book number 2. It literally picks up directly where the first book ends. It was clearly written as like one long story, and the publisher decided to split the books into 2. Like it literally picks up right where this one ends. The sentence ends here, picks up right here. So they could have done it in one book, but they didn't, which kind of irritated me a little bit. So the series starts off real fast and furious in book 1, but the details rolled in real slow. Well, in book 2, we finally start getting descriptions of some of the characters. In the first 30 pages, you learn that Grayson has a beard. So, I mean, I guess that's something. You get a glimpse into Puck's tragic backstory, and you find out that he's got blonde hair. So, a little bit more of a description there. Jake's neighbor, Tucker, he needs a haircut, apparently. So, I guess he has long hair. And the author apparently likes to take her time with character development here. And that's fine if that's her style. And seeing as how the first and the second books were obviously written at the same time, it kind of makes sense. But it is frustrating how the details trickle in real slow. So this book, book 2, it also has that back and forth chapter style. It basically goes from the homestead, where Grayson's family is, back to Jake's neighborhood, which is called the Tullymore subdivision. So in the subdivision, that's where Tucker is. He's trying to keep things under control while dealing with some real heart-wrenching issues. I don't want to give any spoilers here. I'm going to try my best not to spoil it for anybody who hasn't read these yet. So about a quarter of the way through this book, you finally find out what happened to Dusty and Ricky. And did I mention that Olivia is still a useless idiot? So I appreciate how the author keeps the chapters short. Like, it gives you options when it comes to stopping points. Like, I really don't like when I get stuck in a book and I want to take a break, but there's no natural stopping point. That's not a problem with these books. There's plenty of stopping points. The chapters are not very long. So I do appreciate that. So book 2, it was good. It's starting to remind me of like the Survivalist series written by A. American, like that Going Home series. I did a review on that. If you want to go back in my archives and try and find that video, take a look at that. And honestly, these books are small enough that like books 1 and 2, they could have been one book. But you know, like I said, I see why the publisher split them up. It's obviously for money reasons. You split it up, you make more books, you make more money. I get that. But it doesn't take away from the story. It's just kind of a dick move on the publisher's part. So that's all I got for the first 2 books. And now we come in with book 3. So book 3 here, called Run Like the Wind. Now, unlike the first 2 books, this one was clearly written at a different time. It even starts off with like a bit of a recap of the first 2 books. So the first 2 books, they took place during like the first few days of the SHTF event. This third book picks up about a month into the event. So it's about a month later after everything goes down. So chapter 2, paragraph 1, and we're once again reminded that Olivia is worthless. I gotta say, I hate this character. I guess the author can call that a success to make someone have actual feelings about a fictional character, even though those feelings are negative. Like, she's just so damn unlikable. Like, I really dislike this character. It doesn't even make sense to me why Grayson, the major prepper guy, would be married to such a useless moron. It really makes no sense. And I just want to say that Puck is by far my favorite character in this series up to this point. I do like how the author, throughout the series, tries to give like helpful prepping advice, hidden in like subtle plot points. It's not like right on the nose, but it's obvious enough that you can catch it. So, A. American, he does this too in his books, and he just does it way better. Like, he's way better at it. You can tell that A. American in his series, he's not just a writer, he's also a survivalist. He knows what the hell he's talking about. This L.L.Akers, it's almost like she's very new to the whole survival thing, the whole prepping thing, and she almost feels like a copycat at some points. Like, she's just kind of saying things and repeating things that she's heard from real preppers and real survivalists. I mean, but as far as the story goes, it's a good story, but I'm getting a little frustrated. Like, in one chapter, the author managed to turn Grayson into like a walking contradiction. Like, all of a sudden, like, dogs don't matter. Pets don't mean anything. Like, side note, I have a real soft spot for animals. But anyway, they aren't as important as family, even though his dog and some of the other animals play like a huge role in the story. But like, all of a sudden, he doesn't care about the animals anymore. And like, family is the only thing that matters now, and like, not friends or neighbors. Yet they keep going back to Tullymore to check on Jake's neighborhood. Like, they keep going back, and like, I don't get it. They took in Puck, they took in Elmer, Tina, Tara. Like, these people aren't family members. But now Grayson all of a sudden he's like cold-hearted, and he only cares about family. Like, it makes no sense. Like, I understand that like characters can change, but it just doesn't work. It's unfounded. There's nothing in the story that could have even warranted this change in his attitude. And if family was so damn important all of a sudden, then why is it that I'm 2/3 of the way through this book, and Grayson's brother, his nephew, and Emma haven't even been mentioned? Like, nobody cares where they are. They're just gone, and they're never even mentioned again. It doesn't make any sense. Like, Grayson hasn't been concerned about those family members since the beginning of book 1. Like, where's the continuity there? I don't know. I just don't understand. And like the author just simply changes the character's disposition for lack of characters with a conflicting opinion. Like in my that's just how I feel, and I didn't like it. There's no one else to be the hard guy, so she just like assigns that role to Grayson, and it's just poor character development. Like especially considering that, yeah, there was no event that caused this sudden change in his attitude. So, I finished book three, and it almost feels like an abridged version of a American Survivalist series. Like I said, she kind of her style. It's like she's trying to copy other people's style. Like there's a lot of similarities in this book, and I know that's going to happen with this kind of books, like in this genre. But let's just say there's these books feel heavily influenced by A Americans Going Home series. So like I was saying, Grayson, he's kind of a dick now, and for some odd ass reason, Jake during the climax of this book, he revealed a secret which I figured out a while back, and like the foreshadowing in this book is like it's pretty on the nose. Like they're not very clever with it. But all of a sudden, like Jake just decides to do something so ridiculous and nonsensical. I just can't even fathom why the author would have him do this thing. It gets taken care of in a way, but it just made zero sense to me. So, okay, spoiler alert, because it's just so dumb I have to talk about it. So, this dude admits to Grayson that he's been popping pain pills and he's got an addiction. So his solution to kick the habit is it's to not ask his family and friends for help, which is like the theme of the book, that family is everything. But no. He lets himself get caught, and he wants to stay as a prisoner of the bad guys in the fake FEMA camp, as if it's like a rehab facility. It makes no sense. It's so dumb. And Grayson, Mr. Family is Everything, is just like, okay, dude, I'll see you later. It's a definite like what the fuck moment. Like it makes no sense at all. So book three, this series really started to take a turn, man. I really, by the time I got to book three, I said, what the hell am I reading? Like if I wasn't invested at this point, I probably would have quit reading it. So on to book number four. Book number four, it's called Wait Like a Stone. Now, chapter one, and I already got to say this, the fuck is wrong with people? It's sad because I know people would actually do this shit. Your pet is your family. Your dog cares more about you than anyone else in the world. There's nothing I wouldn't do for my dogs. They're like children to me. I wouldn't abandon a dog in the best of times. I'm certainly not abandoning my dog in the worst of times. Like the beginning of book four, what happens to this dog, it's just painful to read. Like Adam Sandler said it best in Billy Madison. He said, if you have a dog, you have a responsibility. And it's so true. Like if you're a prepper, you need to prep for your pets. Like don't be a scumbag. The author introduces new characters, and once again, they are just unlikable garbage. Danny and her husband are just terrible people. And his book starts off with you hating them. You don't even want to read about them because they're just so terrible. And that's all I'm going to say, because again, I don't want to give too many spoilers away. But nothing will redeem these people, in my eyes. So, the author has a problem with making all of her characters unlikable. And I have to mention again that Olivia is still a moron. Book 4, and she has not redeemed herself. The only likable people in this entire series are Puck, who's half retarded, Gracie, the daughter, and the animals. The donkey Jenny is more interesting and braver than the human characters. Like Ozzy the dog has more of a personality than most of these characters do. Like even the damn pig in the tutu is cooler than most of these people. The main characters are just so damn unlikable. Sorry, here's another spoiler, guys. Grayson ain't too bright. Like, here's a scenario for you. Your brother-in-law is passed out, and it's a 10-mile hike home. You have a friggin' donkey with you. A rational person puts his brother-in-law on said donkey and heads home. Not this dope. He contemplates leaving Jake behind, throwing that family first crap out of the window that he was so adamant about, and before dropping Jake on his face twice, and then finally deciding to fireman's carry his brother-in-law all the way home. Like another what the fuck moment. He was gonna leave the friggin' dude behind. Just leave him there. I just don't understand. And it eventually doesn't put him on the donkey, throws him over his shoulder, and decides to hike 10 miles with him on his shoulders. Makes no sense. But anyway, halfway through this book, and it's getting stupid at this point. And not stupid good, but just stupid. Like, I also noticed that not only is the story getting ridiculous, but the print is larger and spaced out more. It's very weird. It reads much quicker, too. Like, the paragraphs are shorter, the editing has changed. Like, entire pages are filled with one-sentence paragraphs. It's real strange. The story and the writing have both gotten really bad in book 4. It feels like this book was just very rushed and just kind of stretched out to fill all the pages. It's really bad. Like, I haven't given Tucker enough credit so far. The dude is a badass. Like, I put him on the list of good characters, although he's poorly written at times. Okay, so the ending of this book is out there, man. Like, that's all I'm going to say without spoiling anything. I definitely did not like book 4. Book 4 was just, it got ridiculous. I was not a fan of book 4. But, with all this being said, overall, I did enjoy this series. It started out real strong, but moved fast. Now, the writing was okay in the first 3 books, and it was a very easy read. Like, I breezed through it. I read book 4 in like 2.5 hours. The whole book, I could read it on a lunch break at work. Like, it was ridiculous. But I wish the author had stretched out the series. It just felt super rushed to me. Like, I feel like if she was a little more elaborate and added a few more books, a lot more could have been done with this whole series. Like, there's too many questions left unanswered. But with that being said, I do still recommend this series. It's an okay read. It's not great, but it's worth a read through since it goes so fast. It's like Baby's First Prepper series to me. It's a good way for like teens and family members who aren't quite into like the whole, they're not on the prepper train. They could kind of dip their toe into the prepper waters with these books. Like, I got my wife to read the series, and I mean, wow, did she have opinions on it? But like, she still read it. She would not be as nice as I was with this review, if you even consider my review kind of nice. My favorite characters by the end, it was still Puck, who turned out to be like the catalyst to every major plot in this book. But what was the deal with the drawings? Like, I don't understand. There was this thing with these drawings that he made, and that I really thought that was going somewhere, and it just kind of, she just stopped talking about it. It just disappeared. Like, it just completely went away. Tucker turned out to be a badass. I really like Tucker. He's what I thought Grayson should have been. I like Gracie as well in the beginning of this series, but she kind of took a backseat at the end. And Jake, I found him interesting from the get-go. But he became a hero, but he was just very poorly written. And I would have liked more. Like, Grayson became a dick, which I really didn't like. I wanted him to be a good guy. I wanted him to be the hero, but Grayson just became a dick. I really disliked that character by the end. And Olivia she's just a useless idiot throughout the entire series. And she is the most unlikable character ever written. Like, she's the most unlikable character I've ever read in any book that I have ever read. Like, it's terrible. She is the worst person ever. And what the hell happened to Emmy? What the hell happened to Emma, Dusty, and their kid? Like, she just abandons that storyline completely. Completely gone. I think by book 3, you don't hear anything else about them. They're just completely gone. You never hear about them again. Makes no sense, man. Like, I really wanted more. I wanted it, draw it out more, write more books, give us more. It's just there's certain things that just aren't there. But even with all that being said, my one big takeaway from these books is that I'm sure you guys aren't going to agree with this, but my big takeaway is you need to treat your pets like the assets that they are. The true heroes in these books are Ozzy, Jenny, and Dixie. They're the only ones that love so unconditionally that they will run headfirst into danger, no questions asked, to save their families. And it's just sad that humans can't do the same. Like, with the exception of Jake, of course. Jake's a different story. Jake actually cared about his pets. His dogs, he loved his dogs, he treated them like family. Everybody else, not very good. So, if your preps don't include like a year's worth of dog food, we can't be friends, people. You will not be invited to my mutual assistance group. Not going to happen. And yes, I would feed my dogs before feeding other human beings. But that's all I have to say about this series. Again, to sum it up, it was a quick read, easy read, wasn't difficult, but my God, it got stupid at the end. Like I said, if you're new to this genre, you might want to give it a shot just because it's a quick, easy read. I don't want to turn you off from this genre with this series, but you know, it was what it was. I'll probably never read anything by this author again. Not a big fan, but these will go in my prepper library, and you know, it is what it is, guys. So please feel free, comment down below. We'll keep the discussion going. Like, I love getting other people's opinions about books like this. If you have read these, let me know. Let me know what you thought. If you haven't read them and you'd like to read them, you have any other questions for me before you get into it, also comment down below. Let me know. And thanks for tuning in, guys. I appreciate you watching, and we'll catch you next time.